If you could talk to your mom one last time, what would you tell her or what would you ask her?
I would tell her that she's not alone and that I wouldn't judge her for what she'd become I'm here to help. And I love her and I love her no matter what.
Welcome back to episode 2 of Kids of Overdose. I'm your host, Candace. I lost my dad to a cocaine overdose when I was 5 years old. I'm 40 now, and all my life I've never met anybody else who's lost a parent to overdose. But I wish I had. So, you know what? I've created this podcast. Every episode, you'll hear from someone who's lost a parent to overdose. We have unique stories, we can help each other, and our voices are not often enough heard. Today, we're going to hear from Jason, who's going to share his story of what it was like losing his mom. He has a lot of confidence talking about it, and he is not afraid. I think it's pretty inspiring for people like me who are afraid. Thanks again for listening to Kids of Overdose.
My name's Jason. I'm 34 years old. I'm a musician in Los Angeles, born and raised just about 40 miles east of here. So pretty much LA native, I guess you could say. And I've been touring and doing music since I was 16, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Yeah, I lost my mom about 2 years ago to overdose. I think that's the summary of my life right now.
Was it something that you anticipated or did it kind of like come out of nowhere?
My mom had been on painkillers since I can remember because, she had, we were in a bad car accident when I was a kid. She later in her life had multiple bunion surgeries. That was the whole thing. And she was a teacher for almost 30 years and was on her feet every day. And so a lot of stress with that. But I definitely in the last like 5 years could see, especially when the pandemic hit, she was just deteriorating. I didn't see her really at all during the pandemic. She just wouldn't allow anyone at the house. She was just by herself. Also, my stepdad passed away very suddenly. He was 52, I think, heart attack, and back in 2017. And that I think kind of wrecked her. There was like that was the beginning of the end. So I knew that she had been taking, painkillers, but I didn't realize the extent of her addiction until she died.
What was your mom like?
She was really fun and laughed a lot. She could be stern and disciplinary figure for sure, because she was a teacher, so naturally that was came with the territory. But no, I mean, my mom was fun and loved people and life and bubbly and just loved to laugh. And that stuff went away when my stepdad passed, and then the pandemic was within a couple years of him passing, and that just kind of she changed like significantly. And I really truly wasn't until she passed away that I went through her house and found all this. I found a lot of the pills. I found so many and didn't realize she was buying them illegally. And that's how, yeah. So it's awful to think about now because she was struggling more than she let on.
Do you have other siblings or other family members that maybe they saw some signs or?
So it's a weird situation. So we hadn't really been talking much to my stepdad's side of the family. I have two step siblings. No bad blood, I would say, but like we just didn't really talk from when he passed, and so they just weren't around. Like we were estranged. No one else really had seen her in the last 2 years of her life because she just locked herself away in the house. She was so deep in it, and I think she was embarrassed about how what she'd become and she'd changed physically. The house was a mess. I mean, I can't even begin to explain how bad the house was when I found her. My aunt, who's my mom's sister, she's been a rock for me. She lives in a different state though, so wouldn't see her all the time. But I don't think anyone really knew. There's one person that knew, but that was the person supplying my mom with the stuff. She wasn't gonna say anything. She's making money.
Oh, so how did you find out exactly when your mom passed?
So I was at Disneyland and having dinner, and I get a text from this woman. She says, "Hey, Jason, can you check in with your mom. I haven't heard from her in a couple days. And for me, that was normal. I would call my mom all the time, and I wouldn't hear from her for a week. It was just normal, you know. She wouldn't text back sometimes, and or that became normal. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll reach out. I said that's odd. I said, my mom will often, have the lulls of time where she doesn't respond to people. And the woman responded saying, well, she always responds to me. And so I said, okay, sure. So I didn't really think anything of it. Called my mom, no answer, whatever. Um, and then no, I'm sorry. That was the day before Disneyland. Then the next day I went to Disneyland. I was at
Okay.
Disneyland. The woman reached out to me again and said, "Can you check on
Oh,
your mom?" So now I'm concerned because it has so clearly it's been a couple days and I hadn't talked to my mom in 4 days at that point. And so I said, okay, we rushed from Anaheim to Rancho Cucamonga, about 45 minutes away, I'd say. And I just couldn't get in the front door, banging on the door, whatever. Hopped the side gate and back sliding glass door was locked, but fortunately a window was cracked. And I opened the window and I saw her on the floor. It was immediately. It was like right away. And so yeah, that's where I mean, it's just like the craziest thing. I called 911 immediately, but they figured she'd been dead for a couple days, I think, at that point. And so
oh,
there's nothing they could have done. And we're just about to hit the 2 year anniversary. It was October 26th, 2022.
oh.
Yeah. Part of me thought this would happen one day just because of how I knew she'd been deteriorating the last couple of years of her life. I'd talked to her on the phone for long periods of time and she'd be really happy, but she was slurring a little bit and I can tell something's going
Oh,
on. And she wasn't really much of a drinker, but I knew she had been on pain medication, and so I figured, I don't know, maybe she's doubling up today, just kind of
yeah.
didn't. I should have seen the signs, but I wasn't really paying attention as much as I wish I would have. But I also, part of me knew that she, I think, played it up more so to get the medication. And once again, she wouldn't let anyone in the house. So I didn't see her physically. Couldn't, she wouldn't,
Yeah.
I would go to her house and drop things off for her. Sometimes she lives, an hour from me, but I would never get to walk into the house. She wouldn't allow me to walk in the house anymore. So it was tough to maintain a normal relationship. This went from she was my best friend, seeing her all the time, to just no contact at all other than phone calls.
I think it a month or 2 months later when you made that video on YouTube?
Yeah, I think it was like January of the next year. So that would have been about 2 months later. And I had already been planning on doing, because I'm a musician and I make content and stuff. And I already been planning on doing something like that. And I was actually going to call it Purple Couch Sessions. I was always going to call it that name. I was just going to talk about my life or whatever was going on. And I just wanted an outlet to do that. So that was kind of what pushed me to finally be like, no, let me talk about this. This is something where it'll be therapy for me, and also maybe I could help people. So, and I did it for a few months. The first video got a lot of traction. A lot of people reached out to me, like, and it was a little overwhelming emotionally.
Wow.
So I took a step back, and I constantly get messages from people saying you should keep doing this. I want you to do, and I probably will, but life gets in the way. I have to just make myself do it, and yeah, it's tough to go down
Yeah.
that road, though. It's tough to revisit those emotions sometimes without becoming a blubbering mess.
When you lose a parent from substance abuse and like overdose, it's really hard for me to like share that with people. Sometimes I just feel like maybe it's inappropriate, or I don't want them to judge my dad and think that it's his fault or about the choices he made. For you, is it something that you don't share, or do those situations ever come up at all? Or
You know what? I mean, I think you've watched that first video at least, right? And so I think I overshare quite a bit. I'm an open book, and I'm someone who's just so honest about things, to the point of some people in my life were a little annoyed that I was talking to my mom like that way, and I wasn't uh, putting shame on our family name or anything. I was just telling what happened to me. I was just expressing my story. I fortunately haven't really gotten any other judgment besides that. And that's minimal. I'm someone who naturally, I'm honest, I'm open, I like to talk about things. I can't live life any other way.
and you said like some of your family members, they weren't happy.
I heard something from someone directly and also through the grapevine. Just heard that they weren't very happy with me, telling those secrets out loud and all that stuff. And to be honest, it's not really their place to say whether that's right or wrong. I was the only person really close to my mom at the end of her life. We didn't really speak to most of our family, unfortunately. And I'm not singling any one person out, but they just were not happy, I guess I can say, with me talking about that so publicly.
And I could tell by watching that video. I did see that you were struggling a little bit to get the words out and to tell that story. Like it did look painful. And it is. And that's why so many
Mhm.
people don't even ever share it. So since then, was there anything that really helped you with coming to terms about what happened and trying to find the other side of that for you?
Well, I've learned a lot about more about my mom in the last couple of years. I'm also the executor of her estate, so that's been a whole mess and doing all that stuff. So I've just learned every detail about her life because of that,
Oh, wow.
I still have her phone. I'm still paying her phone bill because I need the phone. It's also a nice way to look into her life, I guess, but it's also I needed it for various things for the estate. I remember there was someone who reached out to me after they found the video. This is like a couple years ago or right after it came out. And they said that they showed this to their friend who had kids, who was an addict, and they said that it helped them get clean. Literally, they went to rehab. That encouraged me to want to speak about it more openly and just not really care what people say if I do speak about it openly.
You could help bring that impact with just the
Yeah.
video that you posted.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Have you gone to like therapy?
Yeah, I did for quite a while. I was going like sometimes twice a week, and it helped a lot to. I actually found my old therapist because I remember him just being my favorite from a long time ago, and so I tracked him down. He had moved into another part of the state, and yeah, I started speaking to him consistently, and that helped quite a bit. My fiance and her family have been a huge support this whole time. They're like my parents. It feels like now her
Oh.
parents are, and her sisters and my future brother-in-laws are all so supportive and just awesome. So that's helped a ton. And then I have to give my aunt credit and also my mom's best friend Cindy credit for just help. Just like it's good to have that support system around you, whether it's family or friends or it could be anybody. But yeah,
That's
that helped a ton.
so after you did that video, how did you feel like right after?
I felt gross and like
Aw.
ugh, it just kind of embarrassed. Like, and
Okay.
I posted it about 30 minutes after I did it. It was like right away. Like it
Wow.
just kind of I just put it synced up the audio really quick and just put it on. I was like, I don't know what this is gonna happen, but here we go. And it was weird because for like the 2 months after she passed, up until the point of me making that first video, I got this weird confidence in me because of the support I had around me that I could just do things like that and I can speak openly and so that was helpful and encouraged me to do that. But I felt like, oh God, that's so embarrassing. But then really quickly I got a good response. So that was helpful.
What advice would you give to somebody who's struggling with the loss of their parent to an overdose and that maybe is just going through it recently?
Talk about it. Talk about it with everybody. Seriously. Talk about it with whoever's willing to listen, whether that is but making a video yourself or just your most people aren't going to do that, but or just talking to your friends and family. I mean, that to me, I've lost two parents now in the last 5 years, and I have just for me that's been the best way of dealing with it is talking about it just so openly.
So you're in music, as you
Yeah.
said, and you're not have the band anymore, right?
It kind of a hiatus happened. Like we had a show the night she died. We had to
Oh,
cancel. Yeah, and so or it was the night after, sorry, we was supposed to have and so we just kind of been on a hiatus ever since and I'm still doing music. I was like a solo career now and
yeah.
yeah, and I'd kind of been planning on doing that anyways and yeah, I mean I love the band. It was just bad timing and I hope that that can happen again one day if it works out, but until then, yeah, I'm doing my own thing and I'm still doing music every day. It's awesome.
Do you think that the memory of your mom, does it inspire your music or the things that you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean I didn't really write much about her until more recently. I'm actually working on a couple songs right now that I finally felt confident enough to approach and finish. Nothing that I've put out in my solo work really is like reflected in my mind. It's like just they're fun little pop songs, you know, they're not it does not reflect really my interpersonal life, I would say. But I'm starting to get there because I think that's important. I was just afraid to for so long.
What were
Yeah.
you afraid of?
I was afraid of it not the song not being song or songs not being good enough to really honor her. So I think now I'm at a point where they can be, and I just think I'm getting better at what I'm doing. So now the next year I will be putting out more stuff that'll reflect that.
Nice. I know that like when I was a kid, there were some things that kind of helped me understand death a little bit better. I'd watch the movie Ghost and Hearts and Souls, which is a really old movie. Robert Downey Jr. is in it, but like it's not one of
Mhm.
his most notable films. But
Uh,
it just helped me understand like what happens when people die. Um, is there anything that resonates with you that makes you think of your mom or maybe any kind of like music or places or anything?
well, we both loved. She took me to my first concert, which was Billy Joel when I was 6. We loved Billy Joel. I was hoping to fly out to his last night of his residency in New York. It was just way too expensive though, so I didn't do that. Um, and also Halloween, all of October, even not just because she passed away in October, but how that was a big thing for us, stuff like that. We loved talking about art and culture and TV shows and what she just loved, consuming entertainment in that way. And so we always connected on that lyrics, music. I'm like going on about many things now, but
Yeah,
yeah, my life, it feels like it's just a reflection of her.
okay.
Because she loved music so much and art.
And you were really close, like she was involved in a lot of your life.
So supportive, like so the most supportive. And yeah, like she would go to every show if she could be there. And even when I was touring a lot when I was younger, she would fly out to different states and see me and stuff. Yeah,
Nice.
she's always around.
You're the executor of your mom's estate. You have like, you had to go through all of her things. Was there anything maybe surprising that you didn't expect to learn about her?
Only in relation to what you and I are talking about today. Just yeah, like the amount of money she had spent on that stuff.
Oh,
Um, Also the fact that she was getting things illegally through a someone I've known for most of my life.
wow, you knew them.
Yeah, and I tried my best to I don't really know how much I can talk about this, but like I tried my best to get this person in trouble and face the consequences for what they've done, and just long story short, couldn't happen. I will say we had my mom's celebration of life about a year after she passed, and someone there at the funeral, I disclosed to them who this person was that had been selling their stuff, and they told me something awful had happened to them, and so that yeah. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, yeah. So I was like, yeah, there's karma, I guess.
How do you
Yeah.
think the loss of your mom has changed you as a person or how you look at addiction?
Well, in this culture, especially in LA out here, a lot of people use recreational drugs and stuff. And, I want to say this so everyone knows, you can buy fentanyl test kits on Amazon. You can buy them. So if you're going to be stupid, I don't think you should be doing those things. But that's it's changed me in a lot of ways where I'll talk about it more openly and tell friends to be smart about that stuff and or not do it at all, please. But if you're going to, at least be somewhat smart about it.
If you could talk to your mom one last time, what would you tell her or what would you ask her?
I would tell her that she's not alone and that I wouldn't judge her for what she'd become and I'm here to help. And I love her and I love her no matter what.
What would you want people to know about your mom?
Just how fun she was, just how she just like loved life and pranks and fun things. She's just fun. Her being a teacher for so long, she had to be this stern disciplinary figure. I think a lot of people, I mean, she had the students who loved her, I know very much, and like years later would visit her and stuff. But I think not a lot of people got to see that side of her always, just because she was so consumed in her work and, you know, but yeah, she's a very fun person.
Is there anything else that you want to add or share?
Well, I want to say I thank you, first of all, for reaching out to me because it's kind of inspiring me to want to talk about this more and maybe start up my Purple Couch sessions again. Yeah, and I think that this might be the push that I needed. But yeah, I don't know. I think if you're struggling with addiction on your own, there's always someone who's there to listen and help, and you're really not alone in that. And or if you're struggling with grief because you went through what you and I went through, don't be afraid to talk about it. The stigma, I think, is slowly being lifted on things like that because we're seeing there's a massive increase in overdoses and people using drugs, and the availability of it now is so much more wide, and so I think you're not alone. Talk about it.
So if people want to watch your Purple Couch sessions, how do they find that? And how do
Uh,
they find you and more information about your music, your new songs?
my Instagram is like Jason, JASONBNOTT. That's where you see most of the updates of my life. If you just Google Purple Couch Sessions or go on YouTube and type in Purple Couch Sessions, it'll pop up. And I think I was posting it from my old band's page, and I'll probably start posting it from my solo YouTube page going forward. But yeah, jasonnot.com.
Thanks so much to Jason for coming on the show and sharing his very personal story with us. I found him by searching YouTube. I probably used the keywords mom died of overdose, mom overdose, and his video popped up, Purple Couch Sessions. You might recognize Jason from his very popular band, Beechwood Coyotes. They had a few songs featured in Shameless. And as a kid of overdose, we're in pretty cool company. If you want to share your story, please, would love to include you. Reach out to me on kidsofo.com, that's KIDSOFO.com. And hey, even if you don't want to share your story with the world, and maybe you just want to share it with me, I would love that. Reach out to me either way. If you have any ideas or suggestions or recommendations, music is by Pixabay. This show is not sponsored in any way. I hope you have a wonderful week. And I hope you'll join me again next time on Kids of Overdose. Goodbye.